Hello, everyone. Welcome to an APH Virtual Excel Academy. Today is Braille displays and screen readers. They are definitely a fun, dynamic duo. Glad to have you join us. The chat is open and you're welcome to say hello in there. We can take your questions, or as we get going, you can also raise your digital hand. Welcome to an APH Virtual Excel Academy. Today is Braille displays and screen readers, a fun dynamic duo. And our instructor today is Cody Laplante. Hi, Cody. How are you?
Hey everybody, great to be here again. It's always a pleasure.
I'm going to let you get going.
Absolutely. All right. So today, hi everybody. It's great to see everybody again. Today we're going to be doing Braille displays and screen readers, a fun dynamic duo, and this is part duo because this is part two of two. If you didn't see our part 1 of 2 and you're watching the recording, definitely go over and check that out. In part 1, we went over why we might need to switch between UEB and computer code. And we're going to do a little bit of that today as well. So it's really important that we all know how to do that. All right. If you want to follow along with me in the recording or in the live session, that would be awesome with your Braille display. But other than that, let's get started. So I'm just going to first go over our learning objectives, right? So at the end of this webinar, at the end of this virtual Excel, you will be able to identify 2 reasons why a Braille display might be a good fit or a good tool for the college or the workplace, okay? So that's going to be our first thing, all right? We're going to be talking about all of the reasons why you might want to use a Braille display if you haven't considered it. And then number 2 is we are going to, you'll be able to explain the process to configure a Braille display to work with the online app Desmos, all right? And you'll see how those 2 learning objectives kind of fit together as we keep going, okay? Now, this is really, really exciting because as we'll see, Braille displays are becoming more and more integrated. That means put into some of this mainstream, some of this software that we all are using, all right? And Desmos is a really good example of that. And that's what we're going to talk about today, okay? So just a little review, just so we're all on the same page. Remember, we're going to be talking about Braille displays and screen readers, right? Screen readers being JAWS, NVDA, Chromevox, VoiceOver for Mac, VoiceOver for iOS, right? And today we're going to be talking about Braille displays. I have some up on the screen, but if you want to if you use a Braille display and you're in the live session and you use a Braille display, why don't you throw that in the chat and tell us what Braille display you use.
Hey, Cody.
Yeah.
While students are answering your question in our live session, our friend Isabel already has her hand up.
Amazing.
So Isabel, I've given you permission to unmute. You know how to do it. Go ahead and ask your question. Everybody else, answer Cody's question.
What is Desmos?
Desmos, that's a great question, Isabel. Desmos is going to be an app that we're going to use today. And it's based on math. So it's going to be really useful for in your math classes. Okay. But you'll see kind of a little bit later what Desmos is.
Is it used in Apple or Android devices or both?
That's a good question. It's actually could be used in both. We're going to use it online. So as long as you can get to an internet browser, so like Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, if you can get to an internet browser, you can use it on an Apple, on an Android device. But today we're going to be focused on using it on a computer. So like on a Windows computer or a Mac. Okay. That's a great question. So while people are answering my question about their Braille displays, I'm going to give you some examples of what Braille displays might be. And this is really important, right? Some Braille displays might be the Braille Edge. If you have a Brailliant, if you have a Focus 40 or a Focus 14, if you have a Mantis, that should say Q40, same mistake as the last time, an Orbit 20, a Chameleon, right? And if you're using a Braille Note Touch or a Braille Sense, but you're using it in terminal mode. So some people say, oh, I have a Braille display, I have a Braille Note Touch. And yeah, that can be used as a Braille display if you're in terminal mode. But if you're not using it in terminal mode, that's a Braille note taker, right? It's a different device. So that's not really what we're covering today, okay? But let me take a look at this chat to see if anybody has any other Braille displays that they use. All right. I see Chameleon in the chat. Absolutely. The Chameleon is definitely, it's one of those new Braille displays from APH that you can definitely use. That is an example, a good example of a Braille display. Thanks for sharing that. All right, awesome. So I'm going to move on here, and I want to remind us of our activity last time. All right. And last time we talked about 2 truths and a lie. So if you've ever played 2 truths and a lie, I'm going to give you 3 different statements. Okay. And you are going to tell me 2 of them are true and 1 of them is a myth or a lie. Okay. And I want you to guess in the chat which one is the lie, which one is the myth. Okay. I'm going to read these out loud. As you listen to them in the chat, you can tell me an A, a B, or a C. Okay. You don't have to type out the whole thing. Just give me A, B, or C. So is this one the lie? A Braille display is a necessary piece of equipment for a screen reader user that reads Braille. Is that the lie? Or is it B, a Braille display is a device you must learn to use? Or is it C, all Braille displays fundamentally work the same way? Let's see what you guys think. Let's see what you guys think. If you're in the recorded session, definitely think about this question. Which one is the lie? A Braille display is a necessary piece of equipment for a screen reader user that reads Braille. B, a Braille display is a device you must learn to use. Or C, all Braille displays fundamentally work the same way. Which one is the lie? Which one is the myth? Monica says C, all Braille displays fundamentally work the same way. All right. Well, actually, C is true. All Braille displays fundamentally, when we say fundamentally, we mean on a basic level, they all work the same way. Why do they all work the same way? Well, because the piece of the software that's controlling that Braille display is actually the computer. All right. So when you have a Braille display in front of you, right, the computer is sending information to that Braille display. So it doesn't matter if it's sending it to a Brailliant 40. It doesn't matter if it's sending it to a Focus 40. It doesn't matter if it's sending it to a Chameleon. It's going to be sending the same information. So a lot of times it's the exact same. Okay. They fundamentally work the same way. All right. That's a good. And she says, oh, yeah. I actually thought I was answering the truth. Oh, I got you, Monica. Monica says she actually thought she was answering the truth. Absolutely. So C is true. Which one is the lie, though? All right. A Braille display is a necessary piece of equipment for screen reader user that reads Braille. B, a Braille display is a device you must learn to use. Or C, all Braille displays fundamentally work the same way. You ready for the lie? The lie is B, a Braille display is a device you must learn to use. A lot of people think, or a lot of people say to me, how do I learn the Focus 40 or how do I learn the Brailliant 14? It doesn't matter that you need to learn those devices. What you need to learn is the screen reader that they're attached to, okay? So whether you're using JAWS, NVDA, ChromeVox, VoiceOver for Mac, any of those screen readers, you need to learn how they work. And then you can hook up a Braille display and you don't really need to learn how to use it. It's just like a monitor. It's just like a screen. So what I say to people is asking how do you use a Braille display is just like asking how do you use the screen that sighted people use, right? You don't need to learn how to use the screen. You need to learn how to use the computer, right? Same thing. You need to learn how to use the screen reader in the computer, not the Braille display, okay? Now, that's just a little review. We did that last time, but now we are going to ask the question, how can a Braille display make my life easier? How can a Braille display make my life easier? And this is a question I want to put out to you guys, all right? So think about if you're using a screen reader and you're doing all these different tasks, whether you're searching on YouTube or you're using it in your college class or you're using it in your future job, how could using a Braille display make your life easier? That's a question that I want you to think about, whether you're in the live session or watching the recording. How can a Braille display make my life easier? As we do this, I'm going to move on to the next slide. I have the same question up here, and I'm going to reveal each of my reasons that I've come up with one by one. All right. And I'm going to show you why. The first one that I have is you do not need an embosser, right? We all know what an embosser is, right? It's those big clunky Braille printers, right? Now, why is it important that you don't need an embosser? Why is that a beneficial thing? All right, put that in the chat if you're in the live session. But if you're watching at home, think about, why is it important for you not to need an embosser? What's the problem with embossers? All right, as we do this, of course I went on. But as we do this, I want to look up some embossers. Some embossers that I think about are the Index Basic. And I'm going to do this live. So I'm doing a Google search. And I'm going to show you guys how much one of these embossers costs. Okay, let's take a look. Holy moly. Let's change this to USD. It says it in euros. This embosser costs it's still in euros. Let's see. This embosser costs $3,695. Really, really, really expensive, right? Now, is it important for us to have the option of an embosser? Absolutely. But is it something that we should rely on? It's so expensive. What do you guys think? Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. It's always good to have a backup that can be something that you can make sure that you don't have to rely on. Plus, what's an embosser? It's a big, huge piece of equipment that has to sit in a room, right? Let's think about you. If you are interested in going to college, right? If you're interested in going to college, that embosser is probably going to be, there's probably going to be one of them, and it's probably going to be in a building far, far, far away from your classes, right? You don't want to have to rely on these embossers to get your Braille, right? So that's the first reason, is that you don't need one of these big clunky embossers, okay? The second reason is you do not need to find someone that knows Braille, right? Right now, if you are a student and you are a Braille reader, you probably rely on a teacher of students with visual impairments, or maybe a para, to make sure that you have your Braille materials, right? When you go out into the workforce or you go to college, there's going to be some people that know Braille, and there's going to be some things that you can do, but it's going to be a lot harder to find that person that can take materials and convert it into Braille, right? It's going to be so much harder. All right. So we don't want to have to always need to find somebody that knows Braille. All right. If we start to go through some of these reasons and you think, oh, that's another reason why a Braille display might make my life easier, put it in the chat, because it might be something that I have not thought about yet. Okay. And I'll be monitoring that chat as I see things pop up. The third reason that I thought of is you can listen and you can write at the same time. This is a huge one. This is a huge one. To show you this, I am going to show you guys a YouTube video. So let's take a look at a YouTube video. And for this, I'm going to turn on a screen reader. If you're in the live session, I want you to tell me, should I turn on JAWS or should I turn on NVDA? Tell me which one in the chat. And as I do this, I'm going to start searching for an APH. Sure, we'll take that one. I guess that's the one. Oops. I think this one is the one I did last year because I reference it a lot. So let's say you come to one of these webinars that you want to take notes on, right? I'm going to show you what it's going to sound like with JAWS on, trying to listen to a webinar and take notes. All right. We got Mike says JAWS. Amanda says JAWS. Absolutely. I'm going to open up JAWS. So I'm going to do Windows key, JAWS, enter. And let's see, JAWS should turn on here.
JAWS.
Awesome. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up. Oh, we don't want JAWS updates.
APH, JAWS Home Manual, 8 JAWS updates available, no button, enter.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to open up Microsoft Word.
Search box edit, R, enter.
So that I can take some
Opening
notes.
Dash.
So now I have Microsoft Word open to take my notes, and I'm going to start playing a YouTube video. So what I'm going to do is we're going to see how crazy this is going to sound.
APH 3 methods of navigation dash
All right.
relative dash.
So I'm going to go to my first video with H.
Screen readers : the 3 methods, enter.
Safari.
APH 3 methods of navigation.
Absolutely.
So there you go.
Document one
Sweet.
dash
So
word.
I'm going to be using Google
To move to an
Chrome
item,
today,
press the arrow
but guess
keys.
what? The nice thing
Document
about
one
using
dash
Screen
word.
Reader
Edit. T E
is
space
you
I
can
C
open
E.
up all of these.
And I'm not going to do this very
Screen
long.
readers
So if you
colon
don't
three
have your
methods.
screen reader, because already you can hear how chaotic it is. Imagine you're watching this video and you're going to try to take notes. Oh my gosh. Did you hear all of those different things going on? It just got super, super crazy. I'm going to show you one more time, except this time I'm going to turn on my Braille viewer and I'm going to turn the speech off. All right, let's try it. I'm going to go to JAWS. You don't have to know how to do
Task
this,
switching.
I'm going to
JAWS
show
home
you
manual.
the reason. All right, I'm going to go to JAWS. I'm going to go to my options
Alpha.
menu,
Menu bar.
utilities. I'm going to turn on my Braille viewer.
V. Enable Braille viewer.
That's right.
Enter. Leaving menus.
All right, and I'm going to turn off my speech.
Space. Speech on demand.
Reader on. I'm going to show you really quick how to turn it on if you're on a Windows PC, if you're opening JAWS or NVDA. You ready? All you're going to do is you're going to hit the Windows key, right? Which is on the left bottom side of your keyboard. It's 3 over. So the bottom left side, you have control. Then all right, I'm going to stop it right there. How much easier was it to listen to that video? Oh my goodness. With the voice off on JAWS, so much easier. Now, for those of you at home, I want to tell you what I was doing. My Braille viewer was on at the top. So simulating like I had a Braille display. I could see what was happening in Braille. And then I was going to my Word document and I was typing the notes that I would come back and refer to. Think about if you're in a college class, or maybe you're in a training at work and you have to listen to somebody, just like I'm listening, I guess, to myself here, and try to take notes. It is going to be so hard to do it with the speech on. But if you don't have a Braille display, how are you going to know what you're typing? How are you going to know what's going on the computer, right? That is one of the reasons why a Braille display is so, so, so important, because you can listen and you can type at the exact same time. All right. Let's go back to my slide. Let me turn off JAWS for a second so it's the Braille viewers out of the way. All right. What is the next reason that a Braille display might make your life easier? Is Braille is at your fingertips. Now, what does that mean? Braille is at your fingertips. I want you to think about, what does that mean? If Braille is at your fingertips, what does that mean to you? All right. And as you're thinking about that, I'm going to show you an example. All right. I'm going to tell you an example. Let's say that you're in one of your classes, right? Let's say you're in a science class. Okay. And you have your work ready to go. Okay. You have your hard copy Braille ready to go that your TVI or maybe your paraeducator embossed for you and sitting on your desk. And all of a sudden, the teacher's like, oh, we're going to scrap today's lesson. We're going to do something completely different. Now that hard copy Braille doesn't do you any good. What are you going to do? Well, if you have a Braille display and you are on a computer and the teacher's work is on that computer, well, guess what? You can get right to that Braille. You can make that new assignment in Braille right away. That's what it means to have access to Braille, to have Braille at your fingertips. Yeah, Mike says to have access to Braille right away. Absolutely. That's what it means to have Braille at your fingertips. Now we get into kind of the more exciting part of this session, and we are going to learn how Braille can be right at your fingertips with Desmos. Okay, and this is Isabella. This is what is this going to answer your question that you had at the beginning? Is what is Desmos? Well, guess what? Desmos is a really, really, really cool app, and the coolest thing about Desmos is that they've put Braille right into the app. So that means that you don't need any special software except a screen reader and a Braille display, and you can get Braille in math right away. I'm going to show you that right now. Okay, I'm going to click on this link and I'm going to go to Desmos. If you're watching the recording at home, it's desmos.com, DESMOS.com. When I get here, I'm going to turn back on JAWS so I can navigate with a screen reader.
JAWS.
Beautiful. And I have my Braille viewer
slide
up, which is going to be important in the next session, in the next part of this. So I have my Braille viewer up.
Desmos vert2. JAWS updates available.
Let me turn off
No
my
button.
updates.
Enter.
All right. And I'm going to go to Math Tools.
Task switching. Desmos vertical bar beautiful. Free. Desmos vertical bar beautiful. Free math. Math tools collapsed link.
Once you get there, we're going to do Enter.
Enter. Desmos vertical bar
And we're
beautiful.
going to go down to Graphing Calculator. Remember, down arrow key.
Navigation region.
Oh.
Visited link. Navigation region. List. With 7 items. Graphing calculator link.
There it is.
Enter. Graphing calculator.
Now, what we've just come into,
Space. Speech on demand.
what we've just come into is a graphing calculator. So if you've ever used a graphing calculator, maybe in your algebra class or in your pre-algebra class, it's one of those, if you're using a screen reader, you're probably using one of those Orion graphing calculators, right? Big, huge ones. And what we're going to do here is we are going to type in an equation and then we're going to have a graph show up on the side of the screen. Okay. Now, the beautiful thing about Desmos is that we can turn that equation that we type in right into Braille like that. Okay. I'm going to show you that now. So I'm going to first type in an equation. An equation we see a lot is y. Oh, let me turn on my speech.
Full speech.
Y
Space.
equals.
Space.
And then I'm going to do x plus
Quote plus
2.
2.
All right.
Quote y quote equals quote x quote plus u.
So I have y equals x plus 2. Now I can hear this in the screen reader, but let's say I want to see this in Braille, or maybe I want to type this in Braille. Super, super cool. All I have to do is go to my tools or my settings menu over here on the top. So it's graph settings. I can tab to get there. All right. So I'm going to press tab.
Hide expression button. Escape. Graph settings controls group.
There it is. I'm going to press enter here.
Enter. Graph settings complementary region.
And then I want to check the checkbox that says Braille mode.
Reverse contrast checkbox not checked. Braille mode checkbox not checked.
Remember, to check a checkbox is the space bar. So I'm going to check that checkbox.
Space.
And
Check.
now I can keep going tab. If you're a Nemeth user, you can choose Nemeth. If you're a UEB math user, you can use UEB. So I'm going to go to Nemeth.
Braille mode group. Nemeth toggle button pressed. To
Awesome.
toggle the state.
So I'm going to stay on Nemeth. And then I'm going to make sure that I can type in 6 key entry. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to check the checkbox that says 6 key entry.
UEB toggle button.
Nope.
To toggle 6 key Braille input checkbox not checked. Space.
All right.
Checked.
So now I am all set to use a Braille display and type in 6 key entry in Desmos. Let me show you how that works. So I'm going to shift tab all the way back to my equation.
Braille mode group. Nemeth. Braille mode. Reverse display. Graph settings button menu. Graph settings complementary region. Radiance toggle button pressed. Y. Axis. Escape.
There we go. Escape,
Expression list complementary region. Desmos vertical bar graphing calculator. Desmos graphing calculator.
All right.
Expression list complementary region. Enter.
So now let me type a new equation, but this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to type it in Nemeth. So instead of typing letters with my fingers, I'm going to be using the 6 keys on my keyboard to type in 6 key entries. So instead I'm going to do y
Space.
equals
S. Space.
and then I'm going to do maybe 2x
D. J. K.
I don't know, squared
D. K.
plus 3.
D.
All right, so I've typed a whole new equation, and you can notice for 2 things I want you to notice is first, it was saying kind of weird stuff in my screen reader was saying kind of weird stuff. It wasn't saying y equals 2x. It wasn't saying all that. It was saying what? Letters, right? Right? What were some things that you guys heard, right? Let me see if I can type a little bit more. And this time, listen to what the screen reader is saying.
3 plus.
Let me do, instead of plus 3, let me do minus
L.
6.
D.
Weird. It said LD. Why do you think it said LD instead of minus 6? What do you guys think? What do you guys think? If you're in the recording, just think about it to yourself. If you're in the chat or in the session, in the live recording, you can type it in the chat bar. Okay. As you think about that, I want to remind you about some stuff that we did last time. All right. Remember that when we're using a screen reader with a Braille display, that the thing doing the computing is the computer and not the Braille display. So when I type in Braille, all right, it says L and D. The reason is because it's actually taking the computer keys that I'm using and saying that to me on the screen reader. The point I want to get across to you here is that the sound in this example is not important. You need a Braille display to do this, okay? Now, one of the things that I want to show you is that, or one of the things that you might notice is up at the top, my Braille viewer, or if I had a Braille display, it might not say exactly what is in Nemeth, okay? It might not say exactly what is in Nemeth. It might say something that's kind of all over the place, all right? And this is what I want to remind you about what we said
Speech on
last
demand.
time, all right? Oh, there we go. So last time we talked about, there we go. We talked about some things to consider. The last time we talked about which Braille code we want to use, okay? Our rule for that is it already Braille translated? In this case, Desmos, right? Desmos, it's already translating the Braille for me, right? It's already doing all the translation. I'm typing in 6-key entry, and the computer in Desmos is already doing that Braille translation. So is it already Braille translated? The answer is yes, it is already Braille translated. In that case, I need to make sure that my code is in 8-dot computer Braille, all right? If it wasn't already Braille translated, if I was just seeing text up there, I would make sure that my code is in UEB, okay? Some other things to consider when you're using Desmos with Braille, all right, is are you going to be using Nemeth or are you going to be using UEB math, okay? Every single state is different, all right? So depends on which one you use as a user and also which one you get your materials in, right? So if you use Nemeth, you want to make sure you toggle that Nemeth box in the graph settings. If you use UEB, you want to make sure you toggle that UEB box. The other thing to consider is, are you going to be using 6-key entry? All right, I'm going to show you that one more time. So what I was just demonstrating for you guys was using 6-key entry, instead of my keyboard, I was pretend that my keyboard was a Braille display or a Brailler, and I was typing with only F, D, S, and JKL, okay? If you don't want to type 6-key entry, all right, you would make sure that that 6-key entry box is not checked. I'm going to show you that now.
Full speech.
So let's say you want to see this in Braille, but you don't want to see it 6-key entry. I'm going to tab to my graph settings.
Desmos graphing calculator. Hide expression button. Graph settings controls group.
There it is. I'm going to press enter there.
Enter. Graph setting.
And then I'm going to make sure that 6-key Braille input is not checked.
Reverse contrast checkbox not checked. Braille mode checkbox checked. Braille mode group. Nemeth toggle button
There's my
pressed.
Nemeth.
UEB toggle button.
There's my UEB.
To toggle 6-key Braille input checkbox checked.
And notice how that's checked. That means that when I type, I'm going to be using those Braille keys. If I uncheck it,
Space.
I have to use my regular Braille keyboard. Okay. Now that's just a little bit about how Braille works in Desmos. But the main thing to know then is that this app is not like a blindness app, right? This is not something that only people in the blindness community use. This is something that all schools across everywhere use, okay? Everybody uses Desmos. And what's really, really cool is that company, Desmos, has put Braille right into their software for people that use Braille displays. Now, this is really cool for us because it shows that there's lots of companies that are starting to put Braille right into their software. And if we want to be on this cool Braille train, right, we want to make sure that we know how to use a Braille display so that we can take full advantage of a lot of these apps. Okay. All right. So that's what it means to have Braille right at your fingertips. If you want to be on this train, definitely start thinking about using a Braille display. Before we wrap up today, I want to show you guys one more thing with Desmos. Okay. If you go to desmos.com, I'm going to turn on my speech.
Full speech.
All right. I turn on my speech. I'm going to make a new tab.
Control T. New tab dash Google Chrome dash info.
All right. And I'm going to go
Toolbar.
to desmos.com. DESMOS.
Period.
Desmos.com.
C M. Enter.
All right.
3 regions.
And what I want you to do instead is go to not math tools and graphing calculator, but this time I want you to go to resources and then accessibility. So I'm going to tab there. I'm going to press tab.
Desmos vertical bar beautiful. Free math. Math tools collapsed link.
Nope.
Classroom collapsed link.
Nope.
Resources collapsed link.
That's it.
Enter.
All right. From here, you can press tab to get to accessibility.
Navigation region. List. With 6 items. Learn Desmos link. Accessibility link. Enter.
All right.
Desmos vertical.
There's accessibility. And
2 frame.
in this accessibility website, there is all of this information about how to use Desmos with a screen reader and using a Braille display. So I'm going to show you this now. I'm going to navigate with my headings to go to the heading about Braille. So let's do this. I'm going to do H for heading.
Overview heading level 1. Why accessibility is important heading level 2.
We know that. We know accessibility is important.
Supported browsers heading level 2. Screen reader setup heading level 1.
That's important. You want to make sure you can set up your screen reader with Desmos.
Windows instructions heading level 2. JAWS for Windows heading level 3. NVDA heading level 3. Narrator heading level 3. Apple Mac instructions heading level 2. Apple iPhone and iPad instructions heading level 2. Android instructions heading level 2. Chromebook instructions heading level 2. Using the calculators heading level 1. Typing symbols head. Table entry heading level 2. Sliders head. Audio trace. Interactive points and images in a graph heading level 2.
All right, I'm going to cheat a little bit here.
Navigation region.
It's pretty far down. But using Braille, okay? And this section I want to show you is a huge section about how to use Braille. Just a little bit more, a deeper dive of what I just showed you, using a Braille display with Desmos, okay? Now, there's going to be lots of different apps that use Braille displays more with inside their software. So it's really, really important that we talk about using a Braille display if you use a screen reader, okay? Some things to take away, all right? I want to tell you guys some things to take away.
Speech on demand.
And then as you guys have questions, put them in the chat. Some things to take away, first of all, is the 2 truths and a lie. The first thing is you don't need to learn how to use a Braille display. What do you need to learn how to use? A screen reader using a Braille display, not the Braille display. You want to make sure you know how to use the screen reader. For more information on that, definitely check out our part 1 of this series because we go over that a lot. The other thing I want to make sure that we know is these reasons a Braille display will make your life easier. First, you do not need an embosser, right? We don't want that huge, heavy, clunky embosser that costs a lot of money way across campus, right? The second one, you do not need to know how to find, or you don't need to find somebody that knows Braille, right? You can listen and you can write at the same time if you're using a Braille display. And finally, Braille being at your fingertips, especially as all of these technology companies get more and more accessible, you knowing how to use a Braille display is definitely going to suit you well, okay? For right now, that's all I have for you. If you have more questions, definitely put them in the chat as we finish up. Or if you have more questions about specifically Desmos, go to that accessibility link, all right? But for right now, let's see if I have any questions in the chat. For right now, that is all I have for you all, all right? So definitely check out Desmos and use a Braille display if you are a screen reader user that uses Braille. That will be my ending remark.
Well, thank you so much, Cody. I'll look to see if there's any questions in the chat or if anyone needs to raise their hand that has any questions. I'll give it a minute just in case. And while that's happening, I will say thank you so much. This has been fabulous.
Absolutely.
And we look forward to seeing at some of our Access Academy for our adults who are learning.
Yes.
Lisa
absolutely.
is asking, you say you can listen and type at the same time. Does the Braille display give audio feedback?
The Braille display does not give audio feedback. So what the audio feedback is from my screen reader, from JAWS. So that means if you want to be able to use a Braille display and listen, you just keep that speech on. If you do not want to listen, right? If you're trying to listen to somebody talk and that's kind of getting in the way, just like I showed you with that video, you can turn the speech off on your screen reader and then you'll be able to read just in Braille. Great question.
Okay, well, I know you're available for other questions, Cody, and we will see you again soon with our adult courses. So I want to say thank you so much for joining us for Excel Academy. We're getting ready actually for summer. We only have one more session tomorrow, which is recreation and leisure. Make the most of your summer. And until then, I say goodbye to you all. Have a great afternoon.